president of the University of Missouri steps down, calling it, quote, the right thing to do, and he takes full responsibility for what he describes as the inaction that occurred on campus. More insight on leadership or the lack of leadership during a crisis like the one from Mizzou from our guest, CNBC contributor and Harvard Business School professor of leadership, Bill George, along with Tim Judge at Notre Dame's Mendoza College of Business. Bill, Tim, welcome. Good to have you with us. Bill, you've written a book on leadership. Was this a failure of leadership, and how would you characterize or describe it?
Well, I think it was a failure. I feel sorry for President Wolfe, and I'm not here to judge him, Tyler, but I think it shows how tough it is to lead today and how you have to reach out to all your constituencies and be personally engaged. And I think he wasn't. And after the problems in Ferguson, I think he could have anticipated that there were going to be problems with African-American students on the campus. And so he let this thing get out of control. And in the end, he did the right thing by resigning. But I think it's so important that you engage the students, you engage people that are concerned, you engage your faculty. And it shows all these constituents come in. It's not much different in corporate executive day. You can't just engage the shareholders. You have to engage all your constituencies. Things can escalate out of control very quickly today unless you do. And you need to listen really carefully. And I think in his resignation statement, he was clear and said we need to listen to each other better. And that starts with the head of the organization being the one who's listening.
Mr. Judge, how do you see it?
Well, I agree with Bill. I think, this is a situation where I think once the case had gotten to this point, there was little that President Wolfe could do but resign. And, you have to ask yourself, okay, looking back, what could we learn from this? And I think a lot of it is, this is a very public situation with the Ferguson incident. And I think, you look back on this and think, when you see these incidents occur and they build up, the leader, President Wolfe, there's a public side to this that the leader has to be very vocal. And I think dealing with this in private meetings was, not the approach that many people expected, because you have to set the tone and you have to let the people who are sympathetic to these incidents know that this kind of behavior is not welcome.
Mr. Judge, I'm reminded of a case 40 years ago when I was at the University of Virginia where there were similar issues over race that led to the student council and the members of the student body basically marching up to the president's home and walking right into the front door, knocking on the door, because he was judged to have been insufficiently proactive with respect to questions of race. How far, Professor Judge, have we come on race on campus?
I think in some ways we've come a long way, but, you have to ask yourself, why is it that some of these incidents keep happening? And why is it that a lot of times we see our leaders fall into this same pattern of kind of closing the walls, and I think sometimes feeling that the best way to deal with this is publicly counseling people and reassuring them? I think you have to be more progressive and proactive.
Right.
And these actions are absolutely outrageous. And I think all the students need to know, white and black, that kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated.
Right. Let me interrupt. Bill, I want to come back to you. We have to take a quick news flash with Dominic Chu. We'll be right back. Dom.
All right, so Tyler here, the reason why we're bringing this to your attention is right now Norfolk Southern shares have been halted for volatility, have been for about the last 6 minutes or so, up 5%. This on the heels of Bloomberg headlines saying that Canadian Pacific Rail is said to possibly be exploring a takeover of Norfolk Southern. So again, Norfolk Southern shares right now halted for volatility. They are expected to reopen momentarily, but they are up 5% going into this particular headline. We should note out Canadian Pacific is still trading right now, and it's currently up about 5% as well. Also watching, of course, the ripple effects from other rail companies like Union Pacific, Kansas City Southern as well. So rails very much in focus in this trade today. Back over to you guys.
Dom, let me turn back to Bill George, if I might. Just tie it off here. I know you, Bill, well enough to know that you believe that leaders lead, leaders engage, leaders get out front. Is that where this president failed?
Yes, I think it was. He didn't sense the issue coming. He didn't anticipate it and really sit down and have listening sessions. I remember I went through these. I went to Georgia Tech, Tyler, and we were the first school in the South to peacefully integrate. We talked about it for a whole year before this happened. And you got to get out and talk to the people on the football team, talk to the African-American community, talk to others, and make sure that there is understanding of what actions, and if there are students taking inappropriate actions, it has to be dealt with very swiftly, and you just have to shut it off quickly, because if you don't get out in front, then all the blame comes to the leader. Fair or unfair, that's where it winds up in the leader's office. I remember it's like the Vietnam War protests in the 70s.
Boy, so do I. We're old enough to remember them, both of us. Bill George, thank you very much. Tim Judge of Notre Dame, thank you.